Christmas is meant to be a time of joy and cheer, the one occasion each year when you can spend time with your loved ones and put the mistakes of the previous year behind you. You gather around the fire, exchange gifts, eat and drink excessively, and then spend the day taking pleasure from family life. You do not anticipate that a member of your household will ruthlessly and cold-bloodedly murder every single member of your family. Sadly, this is exactly what occurred to the Lawson family in Germantown, North Carolina, on December 25, 1929. The story begins back in 1911 when Charles Lawson met and married Fanny. Charles didn't come from a wealthy family. His parents had been sharecroppers, which is a practice where people rent a tiny plot of land and give a percentage of their annual crop to the landlord in exchange. This is hardly a way to amass wealth, though. The couple got along very well, and they wanted to create a good life for them and their children. Yes, they had many children, 8 to be more specific. Unfortunately, one of the kids passed away when he was only 6 years old due to pneumonia. This was Thomas, their 3rd child, who was born in 1914. In 1918, Charlie's younger brothers Marion and Elijah moved to the Germantown area, so he decided to follow them and moved his family there as well. By 1927, the Lawsons had saved enough money from their work as tenant tobacco farmers to purchase their own farm on Brook Cove Road. Charlie, Fanny, 16-year-old Arthur, and 17-year-old Marie would collaborate to renovate the farmhouse in the evenings. Charlie accidentally struck himself in the forehead with an axe while removing bad wood. Neighbors and family members observed a change in his behavior after the event. Charles, 43 years old, took Fanny, his wife, age 37, and their 7 children, Arthur, 19 years old, Marie, 17 years old, Carrie, 12 years old, Mabel, age 7, James, age 4, Raymond, age 2, and Mary Lou, just 4 months old, into town just before Christmas 1929 so they could have their portraits shot. This wouldn't have been uncommon normally, but because he was a working-class farmer and had to spend a lot of money to ensure that his wife and 7 children had brand new clothes, the villagers found it odd. Everyone in the village knew that Charlie was a loving, if occasionally harsh father, so none anticipated the tragedy that was to follow. In the early hours of Christmas Day in 1929, Marie got up to mix butter, sugar, and egg whites before rolling a cup of raisins in flour and dividing the batter between 2 ring pans. Her famous dessert would soon be iced, adorned, and prepared for the festive meal. Her sisters Carrie, 12 years old, and Mabel, 7 years old, were getting ready to visit their nearby aunt and uncle. Charlie, Arthur, and his 2 beagles left for a hunting trip. After they ran out of ammunition, Charlie sent his son to Germantown to get some more. With his oldest son away from the property, Charles went in the barn and waited. Carrie and Mabel left the house when they finished the preparations for the visit, but as soon as their father had them in sight, he shot them with a shotgun. Charles wanted to ensure the girls did not survive, so he also bludgeoned them with a hoe handle. From here, he returned to the house and opened fire on his wife Fanny, who was sitting on the porch peeling potatoes. He opened the front door and fired, striking Marie as she slouched down in front of the fireplace. Charles went inside the house to find 4-year-old James and 2-year-old Raymond, who had heard the noise and tried to hide, but their father found them and did not waste any time in shooting them. In another bedroom, the smallest member of the family, 4-month-old Mary Lou, was in her crib. Charles beat her to death. He then ran into the woods and hid for a couple of hours. 16-year-old Arthur, who was in town buying ammo, was the only member of the family who Charles spared. It is not clear why. He either believed Arthur would try to stop him if he was present at the time of the murders, or he simply did not want to hurt him for some reason. The records are not very conclusive with regards to who actually discovered the murders, but it was either Arthur when he returned home or one of Charlie's brothers who decided to pay the Lawsons a visit only to find a very sad scene. The victims' arms were folded across their body and pillows were placed under their heads, except for Carrie and Mabel, who were discovered in the barn in a similar fashion, but with rocks behind their heads. A shot was fired shortly before dusk to indicate Charles took his own life in the woods. Just as the gunfire had stopped echoing, Lawson's two beagles' somber barks directed searchers to his body. On him, the police discovered letters he had written to his family, and on a piece of paper he had also left a message saying, "Blame nobody but I." The Lawsons were buried in a family cemetery that was originally built in 1908 for the usage of the W.D. Browder family, as well as a few chosen friends and neighbors. Nobody knows what caused Charles Charlie Lawson to lose control on Christmas morning and commit one of the most horrific deeds a person is capable of. But as you might guess, there are a lot of speculations about what may have prompted him to kill all but one member of his family. For a very long time, Charlie's surviving family and friends insisted that he had experienced some kind of head trauma a few months before the incident, and they were sure that this was the cause of the craziness that led him to commit such a heinous act. However, Johns Hopkins Hospital's autopsy and study of his brain revealed no abnormalities. We have to also consider the fact that this was in the 1900s. The investigation and understanding of the injuries were not as advanced as they are nowadays, so there is still a possibility doctors at that time missed some signs or details. If you thought this story ends here, well, guess again, because a lot more details came out nearly 60 years after that sad Christmas day. In the 1990s, the book White Christmas, Bloody Christmas was released, and that's when a claim of Charlie and Marie's incestuous relationship first arose. Stella Lawson, a relative who had been interviewed for the book, claimed to have overheard a conversation between her own mother, Jettie Lawson, Fanny, and her sister-in-laws and aunts. They were talking about the fact that Fanny was worried that Charles and their older daughter Marie had a sick relationship. Given that Jettie Lawson passed away in the beginning of 1928, Fanny had reasons to believe that incest existed at least a year before the killings. The same author's 2006 book, The Meaning of Our Tears, provided additional evidence in favor of this theory. According to a close friend of Marie Lawson named Ella May, Marie told her that she was pregnant with her own father's baby, and Charlie as well as Fanny were aware of this. Marion Lawson, the brother of Charlie Lawson, opened the house on Brook Cove Road as a tourist destination soon after the killings. On the tour, there was a cake that Marie had cooked on Christmas Day. The cake was stored in a covered glass cake server for many years because tourists started stealing raisins off of it to take home as souvenirs. The only surviving member of the family, Arthur Lawson, was able to find some peace and went on to have a family of his own with a wife and 4 children. Sadly, his happy life did not last very long as he passed away at 31 years old in a motorcycle accident. In the Germantown region, strange tales of prophecies, curses, and spirits were common, especially when Arthur passed away. The Lawson cottage was eventually destroyed and interest in the tragedy declined. The murder ballad, The Murder of the Lawson Family, which was originally recorded by the Carolina Bodies for Columbia Records in 1930 and covered by Stanley Brothers in March 1956, was among the songs and other tributes that were inspired by the incident. What do you guys think? Was Charles just a cruel man who wanted to make sure nobody found out about what he did to his own daughter, or he simply went insane because of the injury he sustained to his head 2 years prior to this event? Let me know what's your opinion. That was it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas, full of happiness and peace. See you next time. Bye bye.